Hello, everyone. I am Burlington Mayor Marianne Mead Ward, and I'm delighted to welcome you to another edition of Burlington Matters. And this is the final edition of our Spotlight on Burlington Communities. I'm sure Angela will want me to say we saved the best till last, but we are, we're Ward 6. It's all about Ward 6 today. And of course, I have my colleague here, the Councillor for Ward 6, Angelo Bentivegna, and Al Price, who started the Live at the Apollo driveway concert series during COVID. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how communities are coming together up in Ward 6. So stick around. It's going to be a great discussion, as it always is. It has been terrific for me to get to know different parts of the city and residents doing awesome things in different parts of the city through this Community Spotlight series. So we're going to turn it right over to you first, Al, to talk about what is Live at the Apollo. Tell us a little bit about that and how it got started.
Sure. So Live at the Apollo started last year when the first year shut down for COVID. And of course, we live on Apollo Road in Burlington, and our family is big music fans. And about a couple of years ago, I was looking at a video of James Brown live at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. I thought, this is pretty cool. I always liked that name, the Apollo Theater. And then when things happened with COVID and the shutdown and people were locked in their houses, we thought, why don't we try something with a concert in the driveway and just see what kind of response we get, and see if anybody has an appetite for that, and if it's something that people would be willing to come out and listen to. So we started it. Our first concert we had. We were surprised at the amount of people that we had that came out onto the street. So we said, okay, we'll do another one and another one and another one. We ended up doing, I think, about 8 that year. We spread them out over 2 years, or over 2 weeks, so we had a break in between. And what happened is each time we had the show, the crowds got bigger. We were very cognizant of the social distancing protocols at the time, and everybody did a great job of respecting that. We had chalked out lines and all this kind of thing so the people knew where they could stand and whatnot. Lots of people were masked up, so it worked out well for the first year. And as a result of that, we had a lot of people come up to us and say, thank you very much. We really enjoyed this. We had a lot of parents that would come up and say, we're huge live music fans, but we have kids and we just can't get out to bars at 10 o'clock at night. So anyway, so we hemmed and hawed, and we thought, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. And then, of course, we were continuing with the COVID lockdowns even this year. And we did it again. We were a little late this year because of the lockdown restrictions, but we ended up starting in July, and went out through to almost the end of September. And again, they just continued to grow. So everybody really enjoys it. What's refreshing for us is we've been in this community for 30 years or so, and we've gone through all the sprouts where, our kids grew up here, they've moved off, now we've got other families with little kids. So we've seen that whole progression of families come into the neighborhood. And during the shows, we see all these little kids out on the street, getting their groove on, dancing away and all this kind of thing. So hopefully, if nothing else, we've enticed somebody to pick up a microphone and sing, or pick up a guitar and start strumming. And it's just been a wonderful thing. Yeah, it's just been wonderful.
That is awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
So that happened. That ended the middle of September, and then so we kind of said, let's start working on next year, because I think it's probably going to end up being a regular event, and we'll change it up and whatnot. And then we decided, why don't we try something in the winter? And of course, we live in Canada, and it could snow, but that's okay. We're used to that. So we've got a band coming in to play nothing but Christmas carols, kid Christmas carols. So it'll be lots of fun. And if it is inclement weather, we'll stick them in the garage. It's not a big deal. And then we ended up, we've got a guy that's donating his time. Well, he's donating his time generously because he's very busy right now. But Santa Claus has told us he's going to come in and make a surprise visit for the kids. So we're just kind of figuring out how we're going to do that restriction-wise. We'll figure something out so it's safe for everybody. And we've also added this year a charity event called Share the Warmth. So what we're asking people to do is bring any new or gently used winter clothing for adults, teens, and kids, and we'll collect all of that, sort it out, and then Angelo has quite a few church groups and whatnot that he works with, and we'll just make sure that people that need these in the community are able to get this winter clothing. So that's what we're doing, and that is on Saturday, December the 4th. Starts at 2 p.m.
That's just incredible. It shows that you're never too young or too old to dance or sing or pick up a guitar or just enjoy music. And I can tell you the music lovers in my office knew exactly the reference to the Live at the Apollo Theater in the Bronx. So there you go. It's a great play on words for your street and to bring your neighbors out. So well done. I want to come to you now, Angelo. I'm sure you've been to some of these. Just talk about your own experience of being at these events, but what this kind of organized neighborhood grassroots event does for you and how it helps you as a counselor to stay in touch with your community.
Well, thank you for that question. And it's great to be here tonight. And well, this whole thing, and Al's really taken it to the next level, is really what's happened here. During this whole COVID-19, especially right at the beginning, there were people sort of anxious and not realizing what they're going to do and how they're going to sort of get out. And they're afraid of this and they're afraid of that because of all the unknowns. So just a quick intro. I felt, well, I'll meet some people, talk to some people. And we talked about doing what we call music in the streets. And it was a driveway sort of play on, and all the neighbors were able to hang out and so on. And it was very successful. And so that carried on in a couple of different neighborhoods. And this situation here, when we talk Live at the Apollo, I have a hearing problem, as most people know. I'm not sure if you mentioned that this is on Apollo, the street. So
yes.
So anyways, so Apollo, and where I live, in my good days of baseball, I could throw a rock from my house and hit Al's place. So the first week I'm hearing this music and I'm going, oh my God. I said, I think I gotta go for a walk. And I heard the music, and lo and behold, it was just incredible. And the music actually played to the audience, and they were young people, families, and so on. And I said, wow, this is just fantastic. And got to talk to a lot of the people. The social distancing was incredible. And it was just so much fun. It was inspiring to see people just in a different light. When they're outside, typically they would go out on a Friday night, before the pandemic. And now there's a place to go, and it's not very far. And guess what? We get to meet our neighbors too. So what has it done to the community? It's brought us a little closer together. We now feel that we know our neighbors a little bit better, and we treat each other with lots of respect. And that's sort of what I'm hoping is going to continue.
That's really great. We and I'll come to you in just a minute, Al, to pick up on that. But it's really great to see how our community, residents in our community, have adapted to the challenges of COVID. So when everything was on lockdown, but and it was hard to see people, but we knew outside was one of the safest places to be if we followed the health protocols around distancing and some of those other measures, and just stayed in our little household groups. And so you were able to adapt this. And as you said earlier, Al, we're Canadians, we don't mind the cold. And to see all the outdoor activities that have really sprung up in neighborhoods. And I'm so glad to hear that this is going to continue, because this is one of those silver linings or gifts that the pandemic gave us, if we want to find things about the pandemic that we can make our city better going forward as a result of that experience. So it's really great to see that happening already in your community and to see how you've adapted. So I'll come to you again, Al, just to talk about how it's brought neighbors and your whole community together. Do you get folks from that don't live on Apollo? You know, Angelo, not considering Angelo, he'll be everywhere. He goes throughout the ward. But do you get other neighbors that that don't live on Apollo that have started to come and partake of this?
Sure, yeah, we've got people from all over Burlington, actually, east end of Burlington, North Burlington, South Burlington. We have, this year, we've had quite a few people, friends of people that live in the neighborhood, of course, Kitchener, Guelph, all sorts of places that have come. So yeah, it's been really great, and like I said, it's really turned into an event. Angela was mentioning that you know, everybody gets to meet everybody. We've had, you know, at least that I can remember, 4 people have physically have knocked on our door and said, "Hey, thank you very much." I mean, I've met all my neighbors now who I hadn't met before. You know, there's lots of people that will say music is soothing for the soul, but one thing that's true, man, everybody digs music. Doesn't matter how old you are. And you know, I think Angela mentioned, you know, we try to bring bands in. First of all, we bring bands in that are bands. This is what these folks do. They're all professional musicians, what they do for a livelihood. And you know, we don't tell them what to play, of course, but we know the type of music they have, and we know that we'll cater to everybody. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. You know, maybe one week we'll do rock and roll, next week we'll do country, next week we'll do reggae combinations, all that kind of thing. And it's really worked out well. And you know, like I said, it just makes us feel good because we know that everybody really digs what we're doing, and everybody is very, very respectful, and you know, it's just the way it is. And we live in a great neighborhood. You know, our area is just terrific people, and we see like I mentioned earlier, now it's a whole new young crowd coming in, which is great. So it's just we're just having a lot of fun. And you know, you mentioned everybody in the city hall. I mean, Lisa and her team have been outstanding. The support that we get from the city has been fantastic, and it's just, you know, just one of the. I told Angelo, it's, you know, we're very fortunate, you know, living in Burlington. It's one of the best places in Ontario, certainly in the world. And
Absolutely.
and
You got
just,
it.
yeah, just that we're just so fortunate for the support, and we just, like I said, we live in a great area, and we should be proud of that. And we're just glad that everybody's really liking what we're doing.
That is amazing. And I'm going to come to Angelo to talk a little bit more about how the city can support these events. We have funding available, and I'm sure, Angelo, you know all the details. For those who are watching out there, if you want to start something in your neighborhood to bring your neighbors together, we've been on that path at the city for some time to try to encourage those, we'll call those micro events or little mini events that happen in a neighborhood that are really intended to, as you said, Al, give you an opportunity to meet your neighbors and meet people further afield. It's incredible that you're putting Burlington on the map, and we're getting visitors from all over the place. So, Angelo, talk to all of us about the funding that's available through our various granting programs.
Well, thank you very much. We have a number of programs, but the one we're talking about here is the matching fund that the Parks and Rec puts together. And this is where Al and his group got involved. And it's a great program, like you had mentioned, Mayor. You know, it's the ideas that the community comes up with that make our jobs easier. And we provide opportunities and funding to be able to have people's ideas and thoughts, and in some cases, like this is some of their dreams. And I kid around when you know, in the Mayor, I know you talked about it, and I know Al says he stole the name. I love the name Live at the Apollo. It brings back old times, almost like, you know, and I said this once before, like at the Ed Sullivan, and Mayor, you're too young to know about the Ed Sullivan show, but they would come in with the Beatles or you know, this is what it sounds like. And Al has brought this to the community through these funding opportunities. And he managed to do it pretty well all summer long and created a Friday night out. And we don't realize, again, back at the beginning of this thing, it was tough out there. and people were wondering, they weren't sure what was going on. Then you go to this event, and you see people socializing. You see people meeting people that they see them on the street, but they really haven't met them. There's singing going on. There's, you watch some of the young kids and the older couples, they start swaying while the music is playing. We had a situation where it was someone in a wheelchair, and obviously there's no vehicles going back and forth, who's dancing in the wheelchair. It was just phenomenal to see. So these are the kinds of opportunities that the city allows and has, gives the community funding to help create some of those dreams come true. So
that's incredible. And I love, there's so much that's awesome about this event, but the fact that it is truly accessible to everybody, all ages, people, as you mentioned, in mobility devices, anybody can listen to music and dance, and to bring everyone together and provide a space. What particularly resonated with me as a mother of 3 is an opportunity to get out of the house with your kids and do some dancing, especially when all the bars and clubs and everything were closed during the pandemic. So well done to you, Al. And I'm going to come back to you and ask about some of the performers that you've had. Because you're also supporting live music and local and other talents. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we've got first of all, our son is a musician. So and my wife and I both love music and spend a lot of time out in the bars going to live music. Burlington as a city is great. We have a lot of great bars that have live music, and of course we have the Sound of Music, which is one of the best festivals certainly in Canada. And then even Ribfest, we have great music at Ribfest. So we've got a lot of music lovers in the city, but we also know a lot of musicians. We know a lot of guys and gals, professional musicians. And one thing about musicians is you'll find out that, they love playing for people as much as they love playing for themselves. So they really jumped on the opportunity because at the time, of course, they weren't getting any gigs or any work. And they're just the finest group of people that you ever want to meet. I mean, they'll do anything for you. They jump at a heartbeat anytime you ask them. And as I mentioned, we've had this year and last year we've had Killin' Time Band, who are very popular in Burlington. The Ramblin' Band, the New Rebel Westerners, the Treblecasters, Sunny Boy Mech. We've had all sorts of people. And, all of the bands that we do bring in, as I mentioned, these are professional bands. These aren't like dad bands in a garage, like me. These are guys and gals that know what they're doing and know how to play and know how to perform and do it properly. And there's no shortage of that. We've got some other ones lined up for this year. So we're just looking forward to it.
That's great. It's there's nothing like music to bring people together. And it is kind of a hallmark of all the festivals we have here in Burlington. Almost every event that's ever been designed, there's music as part of it, music and food, right? All that good stuff. So coming back to you, Angelo, I know there's a lot of things that are bubbling in Ward 6, and a lot of these kind of micro events, some with music. I was at one with you recently, and Susie McNeil was there, who's also a Burlington resident. But talk to us a little bit about just what's happening in the ward with the help of the city's community fund and all the other initiatives that are going on.
Well, thank you for that too. It's interesting because what we hear from the community, when they go to some of these events, they say, well, what else can we do? And how can we bring more of these sort of fun, I guess when it's all said and done, something that's a little different, yet it's unique because it's someone else's ideas and their approach to what they want to do. One of the things that we've talked about is music in the parks. So there's a situation where we've had a number of these situations happen throughout the ward, and Al's obviously he's one of the lead. He is the leader in this because of the number of different bands and different music and entertainers that he's brought in, and we have a number of other situations in the city. So we felt, some of the people said, why can't we do it maybe in a large park like an Ireland Park, and have something where there could be chairs out there, very similar to the movies in the park that we've had, uh, pre-pandemic, obviously. It is great for us to see these kinds of events become a little more localized, because now, we talk about, the environment. We talk about, walking to places rather than driving to places. We can still do the big things, but this is a great opportunity to just basically take your whole family by the hand and let's go and do this. And I think when it's all said and done too, it brings pride. And that's one thing that's the byproduct. The city has provided pride in our city, and I think it's important. We hear a lot about mental health these days, and, opportunities like Al has done, and some of these other situations that have done, it brings us, we don't realize the positive effect that it has on our minds. It takes us away from work. It takes us away from any issues that we may have, even if it's for a little short time, but it builds, it continuously builds. So we want to thank the city for giving us that byproduct that we sometimes realize, it's helping our communities. So that's what I'm looking at, and then these things they take a life of their own, and Al's doing it with the Share to Warmth, which I'm sure I'll finish up with that discussion at the end. But it is great to see the city doing what they do, and it's even greater to see the residents take it to that next level.
That's great. I want to get your thoughts, Al, maybe to share with those who are watching. If somebody is inspired and wants to do something similar, have a neighborhood event that brings their community together, tries to start something, what advice or tips would you have for them? And how did you do it? I'm sure it takes a group of you in the neighborhood to pull all this together. So what advice do you have?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything terribly difficult about it, but I mean, we just, my wife and I just threw together some stuff. We just make sure that we've got power to supply the bands in our case. We did, of course, did a bit of food for them because they're playing during the evening. We did the write-ups. We got in contact with the city and we worked with Lisa. You have to fill out a form. It's a very straightforward form, but you have to have a plan and some kind of a purpose if you are looking for some funding. I have helped another group do something very similar to Live in the Apollo in the east end of Burlington. They did 3 different shows, so that's a start. I think they're going to do something down that way, and it was equally as successful. We had just as many, if not more, people because of their street situation. There's a perfect venue for it, almost an amphitheater type thing. So I just make sure that be respectful or be cognizant of what the rules are. I mean, if we're still in COVID restrictions, hopefully not. Whatever restrictions we are. We also make sure the street is safely. We put out some cones. We put some flashing cones because when it gets darker, we just want the street, everybody to be safe. So just kind of, basic, simple things to think about and just have a passion for it and know that, we've been fortunate. We thought we were going to get some people complaining. We haven't had anybody complain. And we've talked to all our neighbors and we said, look, I mean, we started at 7 and we ended at 8:30. So we're not, doing any loud music while people are trying to sleep or kids, hopefully, and things, but we've had no problem. So I think just be respectful of the neighbors. Make sure you're organized, make sure you have some fun at it. Don't look at it as a job, look at it as some fun. Look at it as a chance to provide for all your neighbors. And that's what you got to do. And you do that, you'll have a great time.
That's terrific. That's probably the only time we've ever had music on the street with no noise complaints. So thank you for that.
No, exactly.
That is true neighborhood collaboration.
Well, that's what happens when you get professional bands versus dad bands. So these guys know how to mix it properly. They know how to mix.
So what you're saying is they were complaining about you before, but now that's all good. Okay, we've got it sorted now. I want to come back to you, Angela. I know both you and Al could talk about this, but I do want to just get a little bit more. Al touched on the share the warmth that's coming up, but tell us a little bit more about that and what's coming, Angela. We've got a couple of minutes left here.
Yeah, well, it's an incredible situation that Al has created, and especially at a time of need. We hear about the food banks, we hear about the population, the vulnerable population that has some difficulty in getting enough of what they need in terms of food. What Al has done now is taken and said, okay, we can share the warmth idea, bring it to the community, have them drop off some warm winter clothing, and it brings, again, a whole new dimension. We do have organizations out there like Compassionate Society that has clothing and thrift shops that do a lot of work with clothing, especially this time. But this is a great opportunity. It's something that now the neighborhood is saying, we're going to participate. And I think on December the 4th, it's going to be unique, where Al and his team are putting a great program together. They're going to have hot chocolate for the kids, candy canes for the kids. Santa Claus is going to be there. And there might be another surprise or two at the same time. But it takes, they say it takes, a village to make things happen. This is exactly what's happening here. And I'm proud of our community, of what they've enlisted in doing at this point, and I'm looking for more of this kind of stuff as we move forward. And that's on
terrific.
December 4th.
December the 4th. Mark it in your calendar. That's a great positive note for us to end on. We are out of time. So thank you on behalf of myself, Marianne Mead Ward, Mayor of the City of Burlington. I want to thank my guests for joining me today. Al Price, who founded the Live at the Apollo Driveway Music Series and the Share the Warmth event that's happening on December 4th. And of course, my colleague, Ward 6 Councillor Angelo Bentavania. And this concludes our spotlight on the neighborhoods. I hope you have found it as fun as I have to learn more about what our amazing residents are doing right on their streets, literally. So thanks to both of you, and have a great rest of your afternoon or day or whenever you're watching this. Thanks to all of you out there for tuning in.